There is a peculiar exhaustion that has begun to settle into your bones, isn't there? It isn't the weariness of a long day's physical work, nor the mental fatigue of solving a complex problem. No, this is a different kind of tired. It is a social exhaustion, a profound sense of depletion that comes from noise. Not just the sound of traffic or the chatter in a crowded room, but the ceaseless buzzing hum of expectation. The expectation to speak, to have an opinion, to react, to fill every available space with words. You find yourself at gatherings, surrounded by friendly faces and animated conversation, yet you feel a strange sense of being underwater. The sounds are muffled, the gestures seem slow and exaggerated, and a powerful, almost gravitational pull urges you toward stillness, toward quiet. You smile and nod, you play your part, but inside, a voice is whispering, "I just want it to be quiet." For a long time, you may have judged this feeling. You may have labeled it as antisocial, as a sign of depression, or perhaps as a growing arrogance. Society, after all, equates silence with absence, with awkwardness, with a void that must be filled immediately. A pause in conversation is a problem to be solved. And so, you've likely told yourself that there is something wrong with you, that you are losing your ability to connect, that you are becoming a recluse, that you are failing at the most basic human game of interaction. But what if I were to propose something entirely different? What if that growing love for silence, that deep, magnetic pull toward the quiet spaces, is not a symptom of you breaking down, but a sign that you are finally breaking through? What if your exhaustion with the noise is not a failure to connect, but the beginning of a connection so profound that it renders most ordinary conversation obsolete? What if this isn't an ending, but the very first quiet dawn of your own awakening? Because the world you are finding so draining is a world built on a very particular kind of noise, the noise of the ego avoiding itself. You see, our society is a grand, elaborate theater constructed for the sole purpose of distraction. We have built a civilization that is terrified of the void. We are terrified of the space between thoughts, the silence between notes, the quiet moment of sitting in a room with nothing but the sound of our own breathing. Why? Because in that silence we might just meet ourselves, the real self. Not the curated collection of titles, accomplishments, and opinions we present to the world, but the raw, unadorned consciousness that lies beneath. And that encounter is the most intimidating and liberating experience a person can have. So to avoid it, we talk, we chatter, we gossip, we debate. We fill the air with sound waves to create the illusion of substance, to prove to ourselves and to each other that we are here, that we matter, that we are something. Small talk is the frantic, polite patter of people treading water together, each afraid to admit they don't know how to swim and are terrified of the deep, dark ocean beneath them. The news cycle is a roaring waterfall designed to make you feel informed and engaged, when its true function is to keep you perpetually agitated and looking outward, never inward. Social media is a coliseum where millions of tiny egos shout their existence into the void, hoping for an echo of validation in the form of a like or a share. Your pain, your profound weariness does not come from a personal deficit. It comes from the dawning realization that you are sitting in a theater watching a play where all the actors have forgotten they are acting. Your soul is exhausted from the sheer effort of pretending that the script makes sense. You have spent years, perhaps decades, trying to learn your lines, trying to deliver them with conviction, trying to believe in the flimsy cardboard sets. But you can't anymore. You see the stage lights, you hear the prompter in the wings, you notice the other actors glancing at the audience for approval, And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Your desire for silence is the desire to walk off the stage, to sit quietly in the empty auditorium, and to simply watch the play for what it is. It is not an act of rejection, but an act of profound clarity. You are not antisocial, you are post-social. You have graduated from the game, and you are now discovering what lies beyond the game board. There are, as it turns out, very clear reasons for this shift. Let us say, for the sake of conversation, that there are 5 fundamental reasons why a soul that is beginning to awaken finds itself falling in love with the profound wisdom of silence. The first reason is that silence is an incorruptible filter for truth. Imagine your mind is a deep pool of water. For most of your life, the surface of this pool has been in constant turmoil. Every opinion you've heard, every news report you've seen, every judgment from a friend or a parent, every advertisement, each one is a stone tossed into the water, creating ripples, waves, and distortions. You have been trying to see your own reflection, to understand your own depths by looking at this chaotic, churning surface. It's an impossible task. All you can see is a fractured, ever-shifting version of yourself, mixed with the reflections of 1,000 other things. Most conversation is simply more stone-throwing. People are not often exchanging truths. They are reinforcing their own ripples. They are seeking to find others whose water is agitated in the same pattern, creating a sense of shared, distorted reality. This is what we call agreement or community, but it is often just a shared illusion. Silence is the act of forbidding anyone, including yourself, from throwing more stones into the pool. At first, it is uncomfortable. The existing ripples continue for a while. The echoes of old conversations and anxieties still lap at the shores of your consciousness. But if you wait, if you simply allow it, the water begins to still. Slowly, imperceptibly at first. Then, with a growing sense of profound peace, the surface becomes like glass. And in that perfect stillness, for the first time, you can see. You see the sky above with perfect clarity. You see the trees on the shore without distortion. And when you look down, you see all the way to the bottom. You see the strange creatures of your subconscious, the forgotten stones of your past, and the simple, sandy truth of your own being. In silence, you stop hearing what everyone thinks is true, and you begin to feel what is true. Your intuition, that quiet, subtle signal that has been drowned out by the noise for years, finally has a chance to be heard. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it simply arises. A quiet knowing, a gut feeling, a sense of direction that doesn't require a map because it comes from the territory itself. You prefer silence because you have grown tired of drinking from a muddy, agitated river and have discovered the pristine, clear taste of your own deep well. This leads directly to the second reason. Silence is a mortal threat to the ego, and you are tired of feeding it. The ego is a storyteller. It is a narrator that lives inside your head, and its favorite story is the story of me. This story is a collage of memories, beliefs, traumas, and triumphs. The ego is the main character, of course, the hero, the victim, the misunderstood genius. And like any performer, the ego requires an audience. It needs to tell its story. It needs to be seen, to be heard, to be validated. Every conversation for the ego is a stage. It steps into the spotlight to argue a point, to tell a clever anecdote, to offer a piece of unsolicited advice, to complain about an injustice. Its entire existence is a performance designed to maintain and reinforce its own identity. It defines itself by what it is not. I'm not like those people. It shores up its walls with opinions. This is what I believe, and anyone who disagrees is wrong. It seeks fuel in the form of agreement and conflict alike. To be agreed with is validation. To be argued with is an opportunity to defend its story and prove its strength. Both feed the beast. Silence is the act of emptying the theater. When you choose to be quiet, you are telling the ego, "The show is over for tonight. The audience has gone home." And the ego panics. It flails. "But I have a very important opinion on this political matter. But I need to tell them about my terrible day. But if I don't speak, they'll think I'm unintelligent. They'll forget I'm here." It screams and rattles its cage. This is the inner turmoil you feel in a group when you decide to just listen. It's the ego's desperate, flailing attempt to get back on stage. But if you persist, something miraculous happens. The ego, starved of an audience, begins to weaken. It runs out of energy. Its voice grows hoarse. And in the quiet that follows its exhaustion, you discover who you are without the story. You are not your opinions. You are not your accomplishments. You are not your wounds. You are the silent awareness behind the narrator. The quiet, spacious consciousness that is simply here. You prefer silence because you are no longer willing to exhaust yourself by holding up the heavy puppet of your ego. You are learning the profound relief of simply letting it drop. You are discovering that your value is not contingent on your performance. Your existence is enough. The third, and perhaps most subtle reason, is that you are beginning to understand the language of reality itself, and it is not spoken in words. For our entire lives, we are taught that understanding comes from naming, from labeling, from defining. We are given a world of immense, pulsating, mysterious life, and the first thing we are taught to do is to chop it up into little conceptual boxes. This is a tree. This is a bird. That is good. This is bad. That feeling is sadness. This one is happiness. We spend our lives manipulating these labels, rearranging them, arguing about them. We read thousands of books about the tree. We study its biology, its chemistry, its place in the ecosystem. We become experts on the concept of tree. And in all this frantic intellectual activity, we forget to actually experience the tree. We forget to stand before it and feel its silent, rooted presence. We forget to notice the way the light filters through its leaves, the texture of its bark, the subtle, earthy smell it gives off after a rain. Words are a map. They are an incredibly useful, beautiful, and necessary map. But we have made a collective, catastrophic error. We have mistaken the map for the territory. We live in a world of words, and we have forgotten the world of isness. Silence is the act of folding up the map and setting out into the territory. It is a return to direct experience. When you sit in silence, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important thing of all. You are perceiving reality without the filter of language. You begin to notice the symphony that is always playing, the one you were too busy talking to hear. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant siren, the sound of your own heartbeat. These are not interruptions. This is the music. You feel the air on your skin. You notice the subtle shift in the quality of light as a cloud passes over the sun. These are not random data points. This is the universe communicating with you in its native tongue. The universe does not speak English or Spanish or Chinese. It speaks in presence, in sensation, in being. You have started to prefer silence because you are becoming fluent in this deeper, more fundamental language. You are realizing that a single moment of silent, direct experience of a sunset is more truthful and nourishing than 1,000 eloquent poems written about it. This leads to a beautiful paradox, which is the fourth reason. Silence is the cradle of true connection. This may sound absurd to a mind conditioned by the noisy world. We believe connection is forged through conversation, through sharing stories, through finding common ground in words. And to some extent, this is true, but it is only the most superficial layer of connection. Because so much of our talk is not about connection, it is about negotiation. We are negotiating our identities. We are subtly managing the other person's perception of us. We are projecting an image, a persona, that we hope will be accepted and liked. We are hiding our fears, our insecurities, our deepest strangeness behind a carefully constructed wall of words. It is a performance for two. Have you ever had the experience of being with someone, a close friend, a lover, a family member, and simply being? Perhaps you are sitting in a room, reading, or driving in a car with no music playing, or watching a fire crackle. No words are exchanged for 10, 20, 60 minutes, and yet there is no awkwardness, there is no tension. There is, instead, a profound sense of ease and intimacy. This is true connection. It is the silent acknowledgement that you are safe in each other's presence without the need for performance. It is the unspoken understanding that you are accepted for who you are, not for the story you tell. This kind of shared silence is infinitely more intimate than the most articulate declaration of affection. It is a resonance of being. Most people are terrified of this. If they stop talking, they fear their partner will discover that there is nothing there. But for the awakened person, you realize the nothing, the quiet, shared space, is actually the everything. It's the canvas upon which the relationship is painted. You have begun to prefer silence because you are no longer interested in the exhausting business of negotiating with other egos. You are seeking the deep, restful communion that can only be found when two people are brave enough to put down their masks and simply be present with one another in the quiet truth of the moment. You are discovering that the people who can sit with you in silence are the only ones worth talking to. And finally, the fifth reason, the most cosmic. You prefer silence because you are beginning to sense the fundamental nature of the universe, and it is profoundly, deeply silent. We think of the universe as a collection of things, of stars, planets, galaxies, people, a great cacophony of existence. But that is only half the picture. Every object is defined by the space around it. The space between the stars is what allows the stars to be stars. The silence between the notes in a piece of music is what gives the notes their beauty and meaning. Without the rests, there is no rhythm, only a meaningless drone. The great spiritual traditions of the world have a name for this fundamental emptiness, this creative void from which everything arises and to which everything returns. It has been called God, Brahman, the Tao, the Void. But it could just as easily be called the Great Silence. This silence is not a dead, empty nothingness. It is a pregnant, vibrant potentiality. It is the womb of all creation. Everything you see, everything you are, is a temporary vibration, a fleeting dance in the heart of this infinite, eternal silence. To fear silence is to fear the very source of your own being. It is to be like a wave in the ocean that is terrified of the water. Your growing love for silence is a sign that you are becoming aware of the ocean. You are beginning to sense that your individual, noisy, chattering self, your wave, is not separate from the vast, silent, powerful depths. You are a manifestation of it. And in moments of quiet, you feel a homecoming. You feel yourself dissolving back into the source. This can be frightening for the ego, for the wave that thinks its entire identity is its shape. But for the deeper you, for the water, it is peace. It is the end of the struggle. You prefer silence because your soul is remembering its own nature. It is remembering that it is not the temporary noisy pattern, but the eternal, quiet background from which all patterns emerge. You are learning to rest in your own foundation. So you see, this journey into silence is not a retreat from life. It is a deep dive into the very heart of it. You will find that as you embrace the quiet, your relationship with noise changes. You don't become a hermit who shuns all human contact. Instead, you become exquisitely discerning. You engage in conversation not out of nervous habit, but with conscious intention. Your words, when you choose to use them, will have more weight, more truth, because they arise from a place of stillness, not from a place of nervous energy. You will find yourself drawn to conversations that explore truth and beauty, and you will have very little patience for gossip and complaint. You will become a connoisseur of sound and a lover of silence. People around you may not understand. Your newfound quiet may make them uncomfortable. It holds up a mirror to their own inner noise, and they may resent you for it. They may try to pull you back into the chatter, to get you to play the old game, because your silence is a quiet rebellion against the frantic, collective pretense. Let them. Your path is not theirs. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your solitude is not a sign of loneliness. It is a sign of your own integrity. It is the dignified solitude of the mountain, which does not need the approval of the valley to know its own height. So the next time you feel that pull, that deep yearning for quiet in a noisy world, do not judge it, do not pathologize it. Honor it. It is the voice of your own awakening consciousness. It is a call from the deepest part of you to come home. Answer it. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and just listen. Don't listen for anything. Just listen to the silence itself. Feel its texture. Let it wash over you. Let it dissolve the frantic narrator in your mind. Let it still the turbulent waters of your emotions. In that silence, you will not find emptiness. You will find everything. You will find the peace that the noisy world promises but can never deliver. You will find the truth that words can point to but never capture. And you will find yourself, not the small self you thought you were, but the vast, silent, and beautifully alive self that you have always been. You are not broken. You are simply, finally, beginning to listen.